Benevolent leadership from the stars have come to Earth to work with us to create a magical school. As a group of light workers, we have come together and are creating a consortium to serve the highest good of the collective in sharing hope, possibility, and freedom, while providing a refuge from the chaos of the great change. Welcome to the School of Light podcast. I am your host, Deborah Leanne, and as we continue in our introduction to the Creation Team series, I want to share with you the essence and the light of our masculine essence in this team, and his name is Tom Steward, right?
Yes, thank you.
I wasn't sure if I pronounced that correctly. And this is going to be an introduction for me as well, because Tom and I, even though we've been a part of the same collective or council for quite some time now, we haven't had the opportunity to meet and connect in this way. So as we start, I am curious what it is about. I mean, what is the energy that you are bringing to this collective, Tom?
Well, I'm not sure, but it's one of those things that happens when it happens, you know. So, if I could just kind of define who I am. I am a licensed psychotherapist, which probably helps something. But I like to consider myself as maybe more than that, or a whole lot more than that, or something different than that. Because I think as a licensed counselor, psychotherapist, whatever, there's something about this clinical format that I've been a part of for over 30 years. And but I think as I know, as I've developed and grown, the most important aspect is like who I am as a person and as an intuitive person. Mm-hmm. And what I get in a counseling session maybe is different than what other psychotherapists provide. But there are times when I just know things, you know, and we know about intuition, and I know things, and it helps, and it changes the therapy process. So that's probably my main, you know, bag of tricks, just being a therapist, but being an intuitive healer too.
Yes. And I think that very often when we are just on that mental, intellectual plane, mm-hmm. we're not going to where the source or where the person wants to go to be healed, and or to find some peace. I don't know if we're ever truly completely healed, but
and people come to my office because they have problems, right? So right. They come, and it's based on the negative. So let's come and let's I have this go on, and please help me fix it. So I often say, you know, you're not a dog. We only fix dogs so they don't, you know, do their thing around the neighborhood. So we don't get fixed, and we don't have problems. Problems are just an illusion, you know. And really, what it is it's the impetus to get us to the table or on the couch, or just because it's an opportunity to realize who we really are.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
We're not our problems.
Absolutely. I love that reframe. And I, as a coach, do the same thing, is that people are like, I'm broken, fix me. And I'm like, that's not my job. It's my job to guide you back to you, to the truth of you. Right. So if you could talk a bit more about, do you employ any other, I know you said your intuition, and you have the psychological, you know, the credentials to do your work. But what other types do you play with gene keys or human design or any of the other metaphysical tools that we are all dabbling with at the moment?
Yeah, I since I know Trish, and I've heard her talk about that, and I figured that gene keys, human design is something I have as a backdrop. It's not a direct thing for me. Mm-hmm. So what I end up playing with is, I mean, I developed my own healing protocol called Spirit Code, which is based on like 10 different areas that I was looking at everything over the years. Like what is it that pops up for people? And, I looked at different healing modalities and kind of put some together and found my own things. And it is, based on mental thoughts and emotions, different, ways that we do thoughts and emotions, which seem to be the thing that we can hold on to and understand. But then there's more to it, like subconscious beliefs and what's in the body. And so using intuitive sensing, which is what I call it, or intuition, or the pendulum, or whatever way I kind of jump into connecting with a person, you get information, and a whole lot more than you would get from just talking to somebody.
Right.
Getting someone's permission to even enter into their field and be in their body, in a sense, to get information. I'm not in their body, but to be able to connect with somebody and boom.
Yeah. And you are in their energy field. And I'm so glad to hear you say that, because I think a lot of people have that. And I don't know why I'm even bringing this up, except it's a pet peeve of mine. People that are very gifted with intuition very often will just be at a coffee shop and they'll go into people and they'll like be in spaces. And one of the things that I was taught, all of us that, Trish and the people that were in the magic school with me, we learned about the integrity of that. Yeah. So you just said about asking permission, and that is an open space to, yes, please. What do you see? And that's, I love that. So spirit code, when we get into the demo or the practices of each of us that we're going to be offering in the next chapter, if you will, of this podcast, I hope that you'll give us an idea of what that feels like or is like. And then the other piece is, have you written a book, or is there any other way for anybody else to learn how to use this material?
Yeah, I can't remember how many books. I think I've written 5 books by now, and I've got 2 coming out pretty soon. And so there is one on spirit code. So I put it all together into a book. It's called Spirit Code.
Oh, brilliant. I'm going to get it. And
the subtitle is something like Healing the Body's Energies, and I forget what the subtitle is.
I know.
I don't remember what I put down, but it's basically everything I put together for Spirit Code, and you can read the book and do it.
Okay, cool. And I would love to see how it ties in.
I do trainings too, although it's been hard to do trainings during the pandemic, but I can train people individually or in groups or even larger groups. Sometimes we have about 30 or 40 people at a training, but it's a pretty good deal. And it's just a format, like I think having a grid so that you alert the powers that be or whatever it is that, hey, this is where I want to go. Mm-hmm. So we all have that. It could be a bias or a presupposition, but I know where I want to go because I have this grid. And so, it goes to maybe core states or images, and there's an image that's important.
Yeah. I have a couple questions for you around how did the Metamorphics Council originally, but then the creation team of School of Light, how did that call you forward? How did you get involved?
Because I adore Trish, first of all, and I want to be involved with what she's involved with, and I wish I could be more involved in it. And she keeps me apprised, and I know I ask every once in a while what's the latest. It's hard to engage weekly as you all have, but what drew me, it is Trish, but it's also just an awareness that there are online platforms or a gathering of energies of certain people, and when something feels right, I want to move in that direction, mm-hmm. and that felt right, and I even though I'm not as involved as I maybe could be, I'm still a part of it, and I want to be a part of it, and I want to present something, because it seems like there's so much learning that we can do online. I have altered a whole lot of what I am and developed skills and tools over the last year because, I've been more behind
computer
laptop screen. And I'm not going in too many places.
Right.
So I thought, well, yeah, let's present that to the world. And something about that just resonated and seemed important.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what your offerings are through the school as well. And that what I also adore about Trish is her ability to gather, right? The community that she has pulled around her. She is the common denominator. And for those of you, I'll reference the interview with Trish at the bottom of this podcast. So let me move into its. One of the things that I am curious about is how did your intuition open up for you, or when did you, especially as somebody who has studied the sciences, how did that other side of your brain get lit up or opened up for you?
Well, going into childhood, and more looking back, like, okay, all that was going on. And then being able to define that as important moments, that the different things that happened. Like one of the things when I was a kid, I used to have this burning on the top of my head, and I had no idea what that was. And I thought I had a problem with my head, and I would just go like this a lot. And after a while, I realized I'm lighting up, 7, 8, or 9, one of those dudes up there. And it would come at convenient times. Like I would know, like, okay, there's something about this situation or this that I'm hearing or this that I'm sensing. So, okay, then you use it. But it took me, I was probably I'm 62 now. I'm probably into my 50s where I really figured that out.
Yeah.
But, but the other thing is, I think that what helped me, or I know that what helped me get to where I am is the things that I've been through, and our whole family has been through a lot. I call it suffering, but there's just it's been a hard path, but it's been essential, and I must have signed up for it because I know what I needed for this lifetime. And we've our whole family, even though not everyone's here, my middle son passed away. My oldest son experienced a psychotic mental illness and was even in this room, about right here, staring at a spot in the wall when he was psychotic. But now he's fully healed and recovered, and married, and has a baby, and is in a PhD program, and he's almost done. So he's a phenomenal individual, and so are my other 2 sons. So every time we go through something, it's like, okay, there it is. Yep. Let's move through this.
Yeah, it cracks us open, literally, so that we can go to where I think what we came here for. And I think so often people are walking around asleep and haven't woken to their inherent beauty and essence and power and gifts. Right. So that's fascinating. And I do appreciate you bringing up that it takes the suffering or it takes the pain to get to the other side, which is the opening or the whatever you want, the light, if you want to call it that. And another thing that I wanted to ask was around when you have a private practice of and then where do you fit time in for, this is a logistical question, for writing, for doing your spirit code work outside of your private practice, or wherever else you're developing all of your interests, because you said that you're learning all of these different things online as well. How do you structure your doingness and your beingness?
Yeah. I'm kind of nuts when I just start the day I want to figure out stuff, and I've got this zest for learning and living, and there's no moment that's where there's not a stone unturned, and I start early in the morning, and I don't have clients till 9, so that sometimes gives me 2 or 3 hours to just be present and to meditate and to come into that intuitive place, but also to do the creativity, which is writing, and then creativity, like, I got to figure that one out. Okay, yeah, there that is. And so that's how I do it. And by the way, I just have I went through something last week that was another huge leap in growth, and it really cleaned out a lot in me, and I'm glad I went through it. Although I hated it, but I love it because it's essential growth.
Absolutely, love, hate, yeah, same thing.
But what was impressed upon me is you got to do what you were really wanted to do for a long time, and it's be more an intuitive healer and less a psychotherapist.
Yeah,
that was the result of it.
Really?
So that's where I'm pivoting and positioning myself, and I don't know what that means totally, because I surrender to mystery for the future. I don't predict it, so I'll see where that goes. But I know that I don't think I'll ever take another psychotherapy client again. I got plenty; they keep coming. But I really want to do healing intuitive work, and that's what's going to be going on for me probably for a long time.
For a while, yeah. That's a beautiful transition, because it also, I think the School of Light will open that up for you as well. And as we are getting ready to close, there's two things that I want to ask you. One's very practical and one is very open. And that is, if you were to tap in to what do you think would be an additional piece of sharing that you could give to the listeners right now about you, what would that be?
There are experiences in life that are so important. Everything you go through is valuable. And we often look at things as if it was wrong, or somebody made a mistake, or I really screwed up, or that person really hurt me. It's not that. Things happen for a reason. Mm-hmm. And we may have signed up for all of it anyway. So go ahead and own that. We picked our life, we picked our body, we picked our parents. Who knows? I mean, I call it a committee meeting, and one gal that I work with, Dr. Sue Mortar, calls it the bus stop. So there's something about whoever was there, that was set this whole thing up, and we're going to go through it, and we need to go through it well. And everybody has everything that they need to go through it within themselves. But the one thing that I have learned, probably losing a son helped this quite a bit, because, he starts visiting in dreams. And I can have a conversation with my son, who's allegedly dead, anytime I want. So evidently he's not dead. So that leads me to the place where we have so much help. Yes. There's a spirit world full of spiritual beings, help, whatever you want to call them, guardian angels, Uncle Joe, I don't know. There's all these beings around us that are even our higher self. Oh,
yes. Isn't that an amazing resource? Why don't we call upon that resource? I don't understand.
It's all there. So to impress that upon somebody, whoever's listening, is, start thinking about all that you have inside of you, but all that it's in, because somehow they're in us and they influence our thoughts and our emotions, our body. But wow. I sometimes sit with even, counseling clients, and I say, I'll see somebody. I'll go, do you know that I see your wife right there above your left shoulder. And that's I got to be careful, because that freaks people out. But it also got to get around to, like, that's comforting. That's got to be comfort.
And we are never alone. And if there's anything that I think the pandemic taught us this last year, is that the people that are suffering with the aloneness, I'm like, you are so not alone. This is teaching us how to be with ourselves and all of ourselves, all of the various support systems in place.
Do we have time to tell a real quick story?
Yeah, go ahead. That'd be great.
So I try to, I'll take 5 or 10 minutes, sometimes more with clients, and just do a breathing or meditation. I don't know what you want to call it, mindfulness. But I was on Zoom with a guy, and he was in his bedroom, and he didn't think anybody was at the house. So he happened to make that comment, like, I just feel so alone. So I knew where I was going to go. I said, well, let's just meditate. I didn't tell him what I was going to do. He trusts me. So we spent about 10 or 12 minutes, he's deep in meditation. And I provided a pause. I was transitioning. That was my thought. I was going to go somewhere. And so it was quiet. And then there was a knock on his door. I'm going, oh my God, what now? Who's that? You know? And he found out later it was his daughter. He didn't think his daughter was home. But she doesn't knock on the door like that. So it was, you know, we were thinking before we figured it all out that either it was somebody was knocking, and it was probably a spirit being could do that.
Yeah.
There's no problem. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
For all different kind of reasons. But it just happened to be his daughter. So, okay, it was a human. But she couldn't have timed it better, even though she didn't know.
I know. The beautiful, oh my God, I love it. I love it.
But I was getting ready. What I was going to do was, hey, do you sense anything around you? That was the question that was coming in seconds. And okay, now, do you sense any knock, knock, knock? What? I didn't even have to ask the question. Now, he got out.
Perfect. Yeah.
He had to pull himself out of a deep place and go, like, what was that? He had no idea who was knocking. And I said, you know what I was doing to you?
Yeah.
We're going to find something around us.
Yeah.
But it was there, guiding that whole thing, even though it was his daughter. Okay.
But it was the timing and the depth of the impression in that. Yeah. When you're deep in meditation and something like that happens, it's a shock to your system in a way. So it was a wake up, right? And so that's so fun. Yeah. And I was just thinking earlier, there was something that you said, and I wish I would have made a note of it, but the lights went brighter, and I went. Because there was a storm outside, and I was like, oh, we might lose internet. But no, the lights went actually better instead of dimming. So whatever we're cooking up here is beautiful. And the last thing that I want to ask you is around if somebody wants to find you, Tom, how can they, connect with you, ask questions, maybe sign up for an intuitive healing appointment, or how would they do that?
So I've just I'm in the process of revamping my website. What I have now is it's pretty good, but I did change the name too because it was Tom Steward Consulting, but now I was able to purchase the name Tom Steward, which is convenient because it's all it's my name, and if you pick up the name in this interview, then that's cool. So TomSteward.com. My number's on there and my email, and you can check out what I'm doing, but as I was said before, I'm going through a big transition in a way, a change and transformation. So the website will reflect that. Yeah, mine is. Yeah, I think we all are, and that's why I love about I can't plan too far even with this podcast or the School of Light, because I think we're continuing to evolve and grow. I feel like we're in the spring of the same as the timing of this being it's going to. On the equinox, we're right there. Every one of us, we're like, oh, where are we growing into? So that's an exciting time. I want to thank you. This has been such a delight to get to know you and deepen into some of the. I've felt your presence in the circle, but it's really nice to add that extra energy to it and knowledge. Your wisdom is so needed. Thank you for all you do. Thank you, Debbie, for doing this. I appreciate it. I'm glad that we've got this way of introducing ourselves to each other, and hopefully there's more of that.
Yes. And stay tuned for the next episode as we continue in our introductions and invitation to learn more about the School of Light. Take excellent care.